if that looks outside.
Notes. Hey everybody, thank you for coming for my speech number 5. So today we're going to be talking about transportation for kids, for school-age children. So free public education, it's a benefit that many of us benefit from. We will assume that it will come with the transportation to and from school, but unfortunately that's not always the case. When that's not the case, it leaves parents with the full responsibility of ensuring that our kids are taken and picked up from school every day. So for parents that can easily modify their schedule, parents that are stay-at-home parents, or for parents that can afford private transportation, that will be an easy task. But for those of us that don't fall into any of those categories, school transportation becomes a headache and a constant issue in our lives. So what can we do when we're dealing with this issue? So first off, public transportation, it depends on the state that you live in and the school district. So I'm going to talk to you guys about the 2 experiences that we have in this last 2 years and how different they were. So last year we were living in Hinesville, Georgia, and there my son was able to receive transportation to and from school. That was provided by the Liberty County School District. And from their website, that's where I got all this information that I'm giving to you guys. It was not only free, but it was also highly encouraged by the school because it was the safest way for kids to go to school, and it would also guarantee that they were always on time. And they also wanted the parents to utilize the buses because it would reduce traffic and accidents and so on and so forth. Then when we moved to El Paso, Texas in November, we were moved into the Socorro Independent School District. And again, from their website, I got all this information. For you to be able to qualify for this transportation, you have to live 2 miles out from the school district. Unfortunately, we live 1.5 miles from the school, so we can't benefit from it. The only exception to this rule is if you live in what's categorized as a dangerous area. Then they will be able to pick your kid up just because of the circumstances. So when that doesn't happen, so how can parents, what effects are of this transportation on parents and on kids? So for parents, I found an article on NBCnews.com that is actually talking about the struggle of parents taking their kids to school when they're also trying to manage having a career, having a job. So 27% of parents feel like their job is constantly in risk. And if that number is not alarming enough, there's a 40% of parents that feel like their work schedule is affected at least once a week. So at least once a week, these parents are going to work late because they have to drop their kids to school, or they're having to leave early just because they have to pick them up. So this can close many doors if you're trying to progress in your career, if you're trying to have a full-time job, and all that kind of stuff. Why? Because again, you have that responsibility with your kids. So in another research that I did conducted, I went into the U.S. Department of Labor, and I found out about married couples with school-age children. So how do they work and how do they make it happen? So only 95.7% of dads, they have full-time jobs, which is great. But when you compare it to moms, only 77.2% of moms can have a full-time jobs. So most of the responsibility of taking the kids to school fall on the moms. Not all the times, but we can see that whenever you have school-age children and you're married, it's really hard for both of the parents to have a full-time job. So parents are not the only one affected. Kids are affected too. Sometimes they're late to school or they miss school because parents just can't figure it out. We just don't have a plan. And other times they miss the opportunity of doing some extra school work or school activities like playing soccer, playing football, because again, us parents, we just can't provide that transportation that they need. Okay. So what can our society do and what can we do as parents to deal with the issue happen? So to get a long-term solution for this, it's going to require a lot of help. It's going to require help from the public department, transportation, school districts, schools, and parents. So before we get there, because I'm sure it's going to take a long time, the humantransit.org recommends that the school bells are alternated. So what does this mean? Instead of having all the schools in the area starting school at 7:30, some of them will start at 7, some of them will start at 8, so on and so forth. What will be the benefits of this? So it will reduce the amount of buses that are needed, it will reduce the bus drivers that are needed, it will reduce traffic time, and it will also help economically. Why economically? So that way, schools don't have to pay for, let's say, 100 bus drivers. They can only pay for 50 bus drivers, and they're just going to alternate the routes to pick up all the kids and then eventually take them all to school. So other options that we have, it will be carpooling. So being involved with your neighbors and knowing who your neighbors and who has their kids going to the same school that you go, and your kids, that will help out, because that way you can figure out a schedule with them, and that way not both of you families are affected by the same issue. Another thing that you can do is just have your kids ride their bike to school, have them walk to school, maybe with some friends. Obviously, that's recommended if you live closer. If you live further out, obviously you probably don't want to send your kids to do so, but it's always an option. And last but not least, it would be paying for private transportation. There's many bus companies out there that they just charge you for the service, and if you're able to afford it, that will be an easy way out of the issue. So we can conclude that there's a big necessity to ensure that every kids get free transportation to and from school, and when that doesn't happen, the parents are left with a big responsibility. So that responsibility affects the family economically, because maybe the parents can't afford the private transportation, so now they're incurring a new monthly bill. Another way is like I mentioned about work. Parents can't afford having a 40-hour work week when they just have to make sure the kids are taken to school and all that stuff. So it closes many doors for them. So what we deal with that, I highly encourage everybody to just attend the school meetings, district meetings, and just raise awareness of the issue. Maybe you're not being affected by it right now, but you never know when you're going to move and then you're going to be in a school district that doesn't provide transportation because you live too close or you live in a different area. So I hope you guys have a better understanding of the issue that I was trying to bring in, and that's it. Thank you.